Hello, my name is June, and today I'm going to be doing a look with this palette and maybe this palette. I haven't decided if I want to combine them, but I'm also going to be talking today about my struggles with contraceptives and my history with them. Currently, I am not on any, and I haven't been for a year now, and it's the first time since I was a young teenager, I want to say around the age of 12, that I haven't been on it. And honestly, this not being on birth control was probably the best decision I could have made for myself at this point in my life. When I was young, I got my period around, I think, let's say nine, because when I got my period, I forgot the medical term for it, but it's when you have extremely heavy periods, and my periods were so heavy. Like, I was using, as a 9-year-old, I was using the super the super tampons and with the super pads, and I would have to change that out like 5 times a day while I was at school, and it was horrible. And then on top of that, I would have these really intense heavy periods for 3 weeks out of a month, and I would get a week of reprieve, and it was horrible, and I really needed medical attention, and I had to wait 3 years to be able to basically go on birth control. And the reason for this was my family was just really, like, they didn't like taking us, they're old school, or they were old school. Like, now they would definitely go to the doctor immediately, but back then they were the kind of parents that were like, oh, tough it out, it's not really that bad, kind of thing. And I was so pale, I had no energy, and it was as miserable as you can imagine, right? As like a 9-year-old being in, I was in elementary school. Are 9-year-olds in elementary school? I don't remember age so well, but I was in elementary school, and I didn't get to go on to birth control until I was like around the age of 12. And so before the age of 12, and while I was having my period, I physically, other than the period, I didn't really go through puberty in the same way, or like my body didn't physically change so much outside of getting my period. And my boobs didn't grow, my shape was like the same as me before, but I was also very obese, so like that could have also been a factor. And it was really difficult for those few years, experiencing that and having to navigate that with school. I remember that being really stressful. And so, but finally I was able to go on birth control, and it helped a little bit. I'm going in, oh wait, I went in with this palette. I need to wipe off this brush now. I just also this weekend cleaned all of my brushes. I cleaned a lot of the main makeup that I used, so I feel really refreshed. I clean my brushes and my makeup very often, like probably once a week if I'm using it regularly throughout the week. One of the shades is missing. It's in, I think it's right there. I clean my brushes very often and my makeup just because I have really sensitive skin, and it's not uncommon for me to get like a reaction on my eyes if I don't clean my stuff often enough. So I try to make sure to clean my brushes and my makeup in accordance with how often I use it. But yeah, so I finally went on birth control around the age of 12, and I stayed on oral birth control until, I want to say, until I was like 17-ish. And it's really hard for me to remember how the birth control back then affected me mentally and emotionally, because I was living already in a really, really high stress environment. And so it's difficult for me to say if the birth control significantly changed anything about that high stress environment from my perspective, just because it was already so intense that like adding birth control on top of it, it didn't change anything about the dynamic that I was already experiencing. So I can't really say for certain how that affected me or anything, but like I said, like physically my body didn't really change during that puberty time, during that time of puberty. And before getting the IUD around 17, or switching to the IUD, I'm going to go in with this shade, kind of blend it out. Yeah, my body didn't change so much other than the really heavy periods that weren't really fixed by the birth control. It didn't really help at all. Like it went down to maybe me getting my period for 2 weeks and then having a week of just spotting and then having kind of no period, but it's like the period never went away up until I got my IUD around the age of 17, 18, I'm not so sure. And that was a very, very interesting experience. I was not expecting it. I didn't really do that much research into it. It was just something where I was like, let's just give it a try, but I didn't do any research into the procedure or anything like that. I was just like, oh, well, I don't want to get the shot of birth control because I hate needles, I hate shots. I say that. I used to have a lot of piercings on my face and on my body, and I hate needles. But like, to me, like, I only have one tattoo, and the tattoo was way more traumatizing than the needles in my face that I had already started getting before then. And so in my head I was like, well, I don't want to get the birth control that you get a shot for, and because I don't want to get a shot, so I'll get the IUD because that's so much better. I'm so silly. I was so silly. It was an experience. It was definitely an experience. I didn't expect it, and I would say I don't have a high pain tolerance, because it's just like, even when I was this is blending. I don't know how I feel about this palette. I have used this so much, and I think the looks that I tried to create with them, I really need a white base, and I haven't invested in one because I am cheap, but I think it would really help this look. But then another part of me is like, well, if I was using a different brand from, like, maybe if I was using a different brand with a little more pigmented eyeshadow, I might not need that. I don't know. I'm overall satisfied with this, and I really love using this as a companion palette, and so I don't regret getting it. But and it was kind of an exploration into this formula and seeing, because I like blacks, I like grays, I like wearing these tones, and it was, yeah, I wanted to see, because I do have this one, and I really enjoyed this palette for the most part. There's like indentions in a few of these. Some of these shades I've never used or touched, like this gold. I do not like gold on me. I don't like gold jewelry on me. I don't like the color gold on me. Yellow is fine. Like very vibrant. Like I don't think I even have a yellow shade that describes what kind of yellow I like. I don't think I do. Maybe it's in the singles, but I just generally don't like gold, so I don't use a lot of that palette. But anyways, I got the IUD. Don't have a high pain tolerance, because even so like I'll get into how my period and PMS symptoms manifest, because my biggest struggle was literally just the sheer amount of blood I was losing so often, and I didn't really get cramps or bloating or anything like that. It was really interesting experience, but I'm going in with the shade. Yeah, it's just like not necessarily the intensity that I desire. I like pigmented shadows more so, that you can work with, versus like building it up. I don't know if I have the patience for that for every look that I do, to build and build and build. Like I like blending and that sort of thing, but sometimes sometimes the Natasha Denona quality reminds me a little bit of this might be insulting, and I really don't care. Might be insulting to the Natasha Denona formula, which I like, but it reminds me, where is that palette? I was just looking at it this weekend. It's that Revolution palette. Oh, here it is. That's why. It reminds me of this, the way that it works. And I would say that this is really good drugstore quality, and I really, really enjoy this palette a lot. So great for Revolution. I don't know if that's a great thing to say though about a $50-something palette, or I guess it's 50. How much are they now? They're a lot more expensive. I don't buy Natasha Denona palettes anymore, just because my curiosity is fulfilled, and she hasn't really come out with any color stories that are really intriguing to me, that are not neutrals. Which, no shame to neutrals, I like neutrals. That Revolution palette is a neutral palette. The Glam palette is a neutral palette, but I don't need every neutral color to ever exist to the human eye. Like I'm just not gonna wear them. But anyway, the birth control. Sorry, going on tangents. Yeah, I wasn't prepared really, by my own fault, for the IUD, the insertion. I don't have a high pain tolerance, and so when I got it, I have a delayed reaction for most things, and I think it's just how my brain works. It's delayed a little bit, and I will process things after they occur, or maybe like a few steps behind, and it's really advantageous in most situations, because I got the IUD, they inserted it. It was so shocking, the feeling. I didn't do any research. It was so shocking, and I didn't freak out. And the nurse who was there was like, wow, you have had the best reaction I have ever seen. Something like just something like that. Like, best reaction she's ever seen. I didn't even react. And it was so traumatizing. I was like, I'm never doing that again. I went into the car and I thought about that the rest of the day. About the feeling. It was just, I was so shocked. I was so shocked. It hurt. It was painful. It was painful. Was it as painful as a baby, as a lot of the women that I surround myself with tell me, and like the argument that I hear a lot when people are like, you should be on birth control. It's really unsafe for you to be on birth control. Like, is the discomfort of birth control worth not having, or is the discomfort of being on birth control more uncomfortable than having a baby? Yes, that's how I generally hear it. And the answer is no. Well, I don't know because I've never had a baby, but I will get into the second phase of my oral birth control in a minute, and why I say it. Like, I haven't been on oral birth or any type of birth control for a year now. We haven't had any scares or anything like that. We time things well. Like, we're being pretty wise about it, even though some people would say not being on birth control is always unwise. You know, which I see, I understand. But we're both like older. I say that, I'm 27. My partner is in his like mid 30s. And like, he's not a 17-year-old boy, okay? Like, he doesn't have that behavior, you know what I mean? I'm really liking this so far. But I think I'm gonna need more drama. I'm not gonna lie, because I wear my glasses. So I'm gonna have to wing it out. And so when I got my IUD, it was a very interesting experience, but even more interesting is that it was a 5-year slow hormone, or it was a 5-year hormonal IUD where it's like slow release over the 5 years. And because of the experience that I had getting it put in, I really was dreading taking it out. And so I didn't take it out for like 2 years or 3 years or something, like after I was supposed to have gotten it out. And it was so interesting. So by the time I needed to get it taken out, I was like 23 or something. And that's when it started, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, 22, 23, that adds up. And I wasn't living at home anymore. I wasn't in that really, really toxic, abusive environment. And after I wasn't on oral birth control, and the IUD hormones had run out. And when it ran out, my body basically went through puberty again. It was really strange. Like, imagine like, my weight didn't change. I changed physically in the way that people change when they go through puberty. It was so strange to me. But I wasn't on any hormones anymore. My period by that time, the IUD really helped with regulating the period. Actually, like, I had a normal period. It didn't go away like a lot of people say, and it wasn't like spotting. It was still heavy. It was a normal heavy period that was really, really predictable, and I was really happy about that. And now that I don't take any birth control, my periods are always on time, very predictable, and normal. They're not so heavy anymore, and it's really nice. And I don't know why. I think it has to do with the fact that I was taking external estrogenic hormones. Maybe not, but like I think it's really strange that I suddenly went through the second puberty when I no longer had hormones in my body, and like my metabolism, like I didn't lose weight, but like my figure looked like a woman versus the way that I looked when I was 9, which when I was 9 I was my current height, just like very different proportions. And so like that was so strange. And besides the second puberty, basically physically I started to have period symptoms that people used to talk about and that I could never relate to. Like I didn't get cramps, I didn't get like food cravings, I didn't have PMS, I didn't what else? Oh, bloating. I had never been bloated before, ever. Like, yeah, like I mean, you know, sometimes you get gas and stuff, but not like period bloating or PMS bloating. And I remember the first time I was bloated, and I was freaked out. I was like, what is wrong with like the physical look of my stomach? I was like, what is wrong? I was like a 23-year-old. As a 23-year-old woman, it was looking back, it's funny. I'm going to go in with this color, really city gray. The shimmers in here are so good. I will say that. And I would say maybe some of the midtones are really good and really pigmented, like that gray that I was using to blend out or to wing it out. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel overall. I think this is a good palette. I just, with like the way prices are now, I don't think it's worth $50. Are you kidding me? Or 52 or 57 or however much these palettes are selling for now. It's insane. It's insane to me. And I got this on sale too for like $32 or something. Something like that. And I'm happy with it at $32 price tag, but I would not buy this at the price tag it is now if it's currently on sale. It's expensive for what it is. And so yeah, that was a very weird and interesting experience. And I started having PMS symptoms where I would get there would be one day during my PMS where I would literally be suicidal, unfortunately. I would get so depressed. And, okay, sorry, my phone ran out of storage. Just cleared some, so hopefully it keeps playing. But I forgot what I was saying. Oh, I'm still here. I don't have those kinds of thoughts anymore, thank goodness, but I would get really depressed sometimes. I think okay, I'm going to go in with the brush actually and kind of even out the angle of each of this color on the corner of my eye, because it's not, one side is more slanted than the other, and that it does make a difference, to me. And so that, I wouldn't even say that was super difficult. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you know, having those kinds of thoughts is really difficult. But also at the time I started to realize that it was a part of the PMS and just a part of the symptoms. And so, and it was also like a better time in my life where I wasn't being abused or anything like that. I'm gonna go into supersonic. Is it super ionic? And so it was, you know, it was what it was. And I finally got the IUD taken out, and I wasn't on birth control then either, and I was really happy. I was really satisfied with life, and I didn't really have any issues other than like familial, I suppose. And then I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna get back into the dating game and just like dip my toes, and I'll go back on birth control just to be safe. Like I am not someone who generally has sex like on the first date or anywhere close to the first date, and I don't think it's bad if you do or don't. Like, it's just my preference. Yeah, it's just my preference. But I just wanted to be on it just to be safe, just to take precautions, you know. And so I went on it, and that's when I also started going to therapy, and that's when I was diagnosed basically with PTSD, and my therapist really wanted me to get on Adderall and something else, I don't remember, to help with it. And it wasn't so bad at the time. I would say, like, I wasn't getting flashbacks or anything like that, or like, yeah, like I could tell what my triggers were and that sort of thing. So it was much more manageable, and I was much more in control of it, and I could function really well, and it didn't affect my life so much. And then I stopped because it wasn't working out. Like, the dating apps and stuff weren't working out, and I was just like, I'm not paying to be on birth control anymore, because I did have to pay. It was like $15 a month, but I'm cheap, and I didn't want to pay. I need to blend. I need to make these wings look better, or more cohesive. And so yeah, and then I tried the dating apps again, and I didn't go on birth control because I was honestly just like, you know, it's not gonna work out probably, and I'm a realist, I'm not gonna lie, or I try to be a realist. I can be optimistic and I can be pessimistic at times, but probably overall I'm just really just realistic, overall just pretty neutral. And I was like, the likelihood of me finding someone the first time that I use this app, I was in a new city, I was living with a different grandparent at the time, and I was like 24 or something at that age. Yeah, I was 24. Like, the likelihood of me finding someone and me like actually caring enough, like them being interesting enough for me to want to be in a relationship with them and actually care about them, is like on a deep emotional level, is very, very slim at this point. Like, I have never had a problem with the idea of not being in a relationship into old age and all of that kind of thing. Like, it's not like, there's a lot of things that don't bother me, and that's one of them. And I say that, and that doesn't mean that like I'm not going to try, because technically me going out and going onto the dating apps was me trying, but I wasn't searching very intensely, and it wasn't like I was like messing around or like wasting people's time or intentionally wasting my own time. It was more just like, it was more experimental, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a scientist, and it was just a little experiment, I suppose, and it worked out, because literally the first person I went on a date with in that city is the person I am currently with my long-term, well, we've been together like 3 years now, and I would consider that's long term. in today's world, it's like he's my partner, we're planning on getting married eventually, and like all that stuff, like our life is pretty stable together, and I'm very happy for it, and it worked out, which was very unexpected, and when we started dating, like not when we started dating, but like 6 months to a year into the relationship, I was like, it's probably a good idea if I go on birth control for this, like if we're going to be dating long term and that kind of thing. Normal conversations like that. And, he was fine with it, and he was like, I could get a vasectomy instead. And I was like, no, it's like nice to offer, but like eventually I do want to have kids, and it's a lot easier to just go off birth control than it is to undo the vasectomy. It's not so hard to well, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but like getting a vasectomy is probably the easiest thing in the long run, and like for both parties. But I was like, no, like I can just get on this and it'll be fine because it's free, because I had health insurance at that time, and that was nice. And so I went on it, and like up to this point I was very stable, other than like the minor PTSD. Like I was doing really well for myself, and like well enough to where somebody wanted to be with me long term, and I started taking that oral birth control. I went on oral because I was like, I'm not getting an IUD again, and I'm still not getting an IUD again. No. I don't know if it's really even on my eyes, but I think that's just my face. I think my face is just, it's the lighting. Yeah. Okay. FaceTime. And so I went on it, and that was it wasn't a horrible decision because I learned a lot, but it was really bad for me. It was a really bad decision for my mental health. And yeah, it was really bad. And even now I'm still like dealing with the repercussions of being affected so emotionally and physically from the birth control. Like it was horrible. I'm not gonna lie. Like my reaction to it, and like I went on a few different ones. Like I allowed myself to adapt for the 3 months or whatever that they suggested, and then I realized, wow, this is really bad for me. Like my PTSD was so bad during this time, and like it didn't have anything to do with my partner or like his actions, because I was like, he wouldn't even be home when I was having an episode, and it wasn't because like, oh, I felt abandoned or anything like that. I don't really have abandonment issues, surprisingly, but it was just I was at work having like flashbacks and just like physical reactions to these things that I was like getting flashbacks of, or just like memories of things happening that didn't have any specific triggers, they weren't any specific triggers that I could identify in the physical environment. My PMSing was so bad. Like I could not regulate my emotions, and it felt like I was a different person, and it was so scary. It was very scary because I felt like a different person. I felt like I had no autonomy over my own emotions, which sounds ridiculous because, you know, you have autonomy over, you know, how you respond to things and stuff. And I've generally been good at that. I've generally been pretty good at that, but I didn't realize it was the birth control until I went off of it, or like until at some point, like I had read a study. I read a lot of scientific journals and articles, like from that are paid for, that usually have like paywalls where you have to be a part of a university to be able to access them. So like slightly more legitimate sources, I suppose. Like it's, you still have to sift through things because like some of the things that are published are just like not, like there's so much bias or something about it. I don't know, like you still have to read and like be aware. And like, or maybe I just read the back of the box of the birth control where it was talking about all the symptoms I was experiencing were things that were that could happen while on birth control, and it just so happened to be happening to me. And maybe it had happened in the past, I don't know, like when I was younger, but the thing is my life was so bad that it wouldn't have really made a difference. But if you're in a good spot in life, and then these random thoughts and feelings and emotions just start like overtaking your whole life, and you feel like you have no control over them, and like you work, like I had spent years cultivating my self-discipline and my ability to regulate my emotions. Like it was a very core component of who I thought I was, and then suddenly I didn't have that anymore. It was really, it was shocking. It was shocking. And it was really difficult. And I thought I was going crazy. I legitimately thought I was going crazy. And I hadn't, like my therapist a few years before that had suggested that I go on medication for the PTSD, but it wasn't so bad. It was so manageable. And I really considered going on medication at that point. But I was like, okay, before I go on medication, let me take an inventory of my life and try to figure out what else it could be before just starting to take these substances. Not that I think those are bad, they're really helpful, but like I didn't need them before. Like I could manage it myself before. So obviously there was something external going on that was contributing to it. And I was right. I was correct. I looked at the back of the box, I'm gonna use the shade, of the birth control, read that it caused a lot of, it could cause hormonal or emotional dysregulation and that sort of thing, and like suicidal thoughts and stuff. And I was very suicidal at the time. And it wasn't just like one day anymore. It was like a constant state of being. And I was like, my life is great. Like I have everything that I wanted in life, and more than I thought I could ever achieve when I was younger. And I was very happy before I started taking the birth control. And so I was like, okay, and me and my partner had like a talk about it, and because he was super concerned for me, he obviously, because he could see like the downward spiral I was going in, and so he was super confused, and also just like, what, like he wanted me to feel better and not to, yeah, just to feel better and not be in such a horrible place mentally. Like a good partner would, you know. And so he's like, okay, like if you want to go off of the birth control, that's fine. Like it's not a big issue. Like, you know, we'll adjust. And so we did. And the change is crazy. The change is crazy, guys. I am now back at my normal, I think that might be really harsh against this, but at the same time it might look nice. Okay, I won't use a cream. I'm gonna use this because it's a little more gentle, and then if I want to deepen it up, I'll go in with this this. These are my two powder blushes in my whole collection now. And so yeah, that was it was a very interesting story, I suppose, to myself, and it's not something that I hear a lot of people talking about, because I just hear people just like talking only about how great birth control is, and like something that contributes to women's suffering in silence a lot is the fact that I've only talked to other women about my fertility and menstrual stuff and PMS, and so I'm going to say women, but men might do this too. Like other women being like, well, basically saying that all of your pain and all of your suffering that you're experiencing while on birth control or with the IUD is all unsubstantial comparatively to you having a child. Which, yeah, maybe, but I've been like, I don't know, I'm 27, I haven't been on birth control in like a year, 2 years now. Well, okay, it's going on closer to 2 years now, but it's not quite 2 years. Wait. Oh, fuck, I'm already at the point where I am losing track of time. I'm going to say a year and a half. I'm gonna say a year and a half now. And like, I would disagree. Like, I don't know, like, I don't think, for some reason, it's really important for women to have to each other a really strong pain tolerance and just like not be affected by things that affect us. Like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm not ashamed of the fact that, like, yeah, this fucking hurts. Like, I can feel the IUD in my uterus for 5 years straight. Like, that is a fucking horrible feeling. That's not great. Or like, wow, I want to kill myself while I'm on birth control, on oral birth control. Like, and some people are like, well, it's better than having a baby. Is it? Is me being dead better than me having a baby? I don't know, honestly. Like, I don't know. It's very, very dependent, and it's dependent on who you talk to. And I just don't like the rhetoric. I don't like the rhetoric of people saying things like diminishing your suffering because the alternative is so much worse. Like, actually, maybe we don't need to be awake while we're getting the IUD put in because it's an invasive procedure. Maybe we do. I don't know. But I'm not gonna lie, if I ever get an IUD again, I'm vouching for myself now that I know. And I'm not going to get in, like, if I am forced to get an IUD for whatever reason, I'm going to be asked to be put to sleep. Like, is it such an intense pain? Like, no, but it's still fucking uncomfortable. And I'm not doing that again if I don't have to. Like, unless the government is like, no, you have to be on some sort of birth control, and it has to be this specific kind of birth control. You know, just like, I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting, but like, it was an insane experience that lasted a longer than a decade, all to satisfy other people, really. Like, other than me having the really intense periods, that I definitely needed birth control, and I would say the birth control when I was younger was probably more beneficial, and it didn't really affect me in the same way because, like, my environment was so distracting. It was like, you know, it's not that big of a deal. But when my life is so great and then suddenly it's not because of this thing, you know, I don't know. I am vouching for myself more now that I am an adult and I know what to ask for, and I have more, honestly, it's more that I have more experience to be able to read a situation and vouch for myself, more so, because when I was younger, I was really naive and I didn't know how to vouch for myself because I didn't know that I needed to, or that that it was really necessary, until I experienced it. And now, like, I don't go to the doctor's office by myself anymore, because I've had so many bad experiences at the doctor's office of just like people being really, like, when I told my OBG, when I was getting my IUD removed, like, my OBGYN was so aggressive that I needed to get another one, or at least be on a different kind of birth control. And I wasn't dating anyone. I had no intention of dating anyone at the time. Or, like, I was like, if I start dating people again, I will go back on it, but it's not necessary. And of course they don't ever believe you, understandably. But she was so goddamn insistent. Like, I had to tell her no like 5 times, and to me that's annoying. To me that's really invasive and annoying, and like, yeah, like, I understand, but she was also talking to me like I was a fucking idiot. Okay? I also don't like that. And like, that was a normal experience that I would have at the doctor's. And I'm in person, I'm a very nice, very kind person, like, to the point where people, like, random people, like, not homeless people, but like people that I know will ask me for money or like ask me for favors, where I'm just like, I didn't know I was coming across this nice, or like this welcoming, I guess. It's a very common thing for me, and I don't know. But yeah, I know I'm not super unpleasant at the doctor's office, and now that I'm older, I don't go to the doctor's office by myself. I only go with my male partner. And the last time we went to the doctor's office, like, it was the best experience that I had ever had at a doctor's office ever in my entire life. And we left, me and my partner left, and I literally told him that was the best experience I have ever experienced. I wanted you to come with me this time because I wanted to see if that would change my experience at the doctor's office, and it did. And like, I just kept going on and on about how great of an experience that was, and he literally looked at me and he's like, June, that was a normal experience to me. Like, that, like, I have never experienced a bad doctor, or like he's like, to me that wasn't a super great, it's not as great to me as you were saying. To me, it was just like a normal doctor's office visit. I was like, of course it was. Of course it was. I was like, well, that was the best experience I've ever had. So thanks for being there. And now I want you to be there, or another person at least be there every time I'm there. And yeah, the doctor to me was just so great. And maybe, like, the doctors and the nurses were so great and so kind. And maybe, and I just acted like my normal self. So I know it, I don't know. It was, and we've gone to the doctor since then, like, different, like, more specialty. Like, I went to the dermatologist with him because I have very concerning, or used to be concerning, moles and stuff, and I got it checked, and they were basically like, oh, it's fine, you don't really have to worry about it. So that's good. But like, I haven't had a bad experience with a doctor since he started coming with me, a doctor or a nurse. And I don't want to say it's him being a male that makes a difference, but so far the only great experiences I've had, or like great to me, like outstanding to me and normal to him, was when he was with me. So that was my experience being on estrogenic hormones. And, you know, if you've been on estrogenic hormones, and this is also not to say that you should go off of it or that you should go on it, or like, this isn't really to convince anyone to do anything that they don't want to. I'm just explaining my experience with it because it is really interesting, I think, and probably pretty common. I was a little more passionate in this talk, but that's because I'm passionate about my own health, and you know, it's really frustrating being a part of a system like this where you're expected to take something that affects you, that affected me in this way. And yeah, it's just really interesting. Like, I feel almost socially like I am a bad person, which isn't so, like, I don't really care that much, and maybe I'm not reading it correctly, but so, like, I wouldn't tell I mean, I have told my sisters, but if I didn't have as much resilience and as much autonomy over my own self and desires and that sort of thing, I might be afraid to tell my siblings or my mom or anyone, any other woman close to me, that I'm not on birth control anymore, and that I'm not intending to have a child anytime soon. Like, if it happens, it happens, but we're not planning on it currently. So yeah, that was my experience. Let me know if you guys have had any experiences like that, or anything similar where it's just a really messed up system that you're expected to take part in. But yeah, anyway, so that's all. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys later. And I hope you guys like the makeup look. It's pretty, I would say it's pretty basic. It's just gray and black and a little blush. Can't really see it honestly with my glasses on in this camera or any other time that I'm doing anything. It's just really reflective. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.